Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I'm reviewing in my car because the house is occupied and also I'm recovering from a bit of a cold, so if I sound weird, that's why. Today I'm going to be reviewing Lakes, Their Birth, Life, and Death by John Richard Saylor. So this book my library initially purchased as an ebook, and I put it on my want to read list because it sounded interesting, but I'm not a huge fan of ebooks. I just prefer to read paper books if I can find them. I'll read an ebook, but I prefer to read the actual physical print copy if I can find it, but my library didn't have it for a while. But then I noticed when I was in the library that they had finally purchased the print copy, so I decided to pick it up and give it a read. And I am glad I did. I really enjoyed this book on lakes. So first, a little bit about lakes and me. I live in the Great Lake region of the United States, so that's the area where the Great Lakes are. There's 5 of them: Michigan, Superior, Erie, Ontario, and Huron. And these are these huge or relatively very large freshwater lakes in the United States and Canada. They also border Canada. So I have grown up around lakes, around very or relatively large lakes. So I enjoy lakes. I like them. I grew up around them. I'm very familiar with them. So yeah, they're interesting, and I figured I might want to learn more about them, and I was right. Something that I'm always a little fearful of when picking up a general science, popular science, I don't know how to describe this, a book that's written by an expert but designed for the lay reader, is that the author is going to, I worry because the author is going to have to take all their technical knowledge and distill it into something a little bit more manageable for the average reader who doesn't have the science background of them or the people that they normally write to. So that was something that I was a little worried about going into this, was that it was going to be highly technical and filled with a lot of definitions and things that I was going to have to puzzle my way through, and that it was going to be kind of a dry technical read. But I think the author did a very good job of keeping it very entertaining, very accessible to people with no knowledge of science beyond what they learned in high school, and keeping it that entertainment, but also educational aspect at the same time. I felt like I was entertained through the whole thing. I read it through the course of like 2 days, mostly because I was kind of not feeling good the first day I read this, so then I kind of fell asleep while reading it, but not because it was boring. It was very interesting, but I was very tired. So then the next day when I was feeling better, I read the rest of it, and yes, very enjoyable. I highly recommend. I think this is a great book. So this is kind of split up into kind of how lakes are formed, different things that are lakes, so things that you might not think of as lakes. So like these brine pools that exist in the ocean, which are these deep areas which are saltier than the rest, so they're kind of like lakes within the ocean, and subglacial lakes, so lakes that exist under glaciers but they're like liquids, so particularly in Antarctica. Then we discuss kind of how lakes disappear, so by evaporation, by dams bursting or breaking, whether they are human dams or whether they are naturally caused or naturally formed dams. We also have human causes that lead to the disappearance of lakes. And then finally we have just like the natural, like long-term causes that will slowly cause lakes to disappear over time. And then we have other just general interesting concepts regarding lakes. So like lake overturning, so that's when a lake kind of flips. As someone who lives in the Great Lake region, I've heard of this before. When the lake flips, it's kind of like the cold water from the below comes up, and it's this flipping that kind of oxygenates the entire lake. And it's something I was vaguely familiar with that happened. You would hear people say, oh, the lake flipped, but this book kind of really fully explained why they're flipping, how it happens, without getting so technical that I felt lost, which I thought was really interesting. Ice is actually a very interesting concept. It is a solid that is less dense than the liquid form, which is not particularly common in the natural world, and the author somehow makes ice, this very common everyday experience that many of us have in our freezers, a very interesting topic, which was enjoyable. Surface tension, which if you were like me when I started the surface tension chapter, I definitely remembered like high school chemistry or something and became very stressed that this was going to be very unfun. And this was, again, 161 pages into the book, 161 pages that I had thoroughly enjoyed and had not been technical, but I was like, surface tension, how are you going to make surface tension interesting? But somehow he did, and in a way that was not too technical or too complicated for the lay person to understand. And where was the other topic? Dissolved gas. So the way that gas dissolves in water, which I knew a little bit about, but I did not know exactly to what extent dissolved gases played a role in water. One thing that was interesting, a thing that I had never knew of before, was this kind of gas explosion that occurred in Cameroon, in which a lot of carbon dioxide kind of literally blew up out of a lake because it kind of dissolved too much. It was like oversaturated, and it reached a critical point and blew up, and this whole mass of carbon dioxide came down over a mountain and wound up killing a large number of people in villages because they were basically suffocated or killed by this carbon dioxide that came down the mountain. Tragedy that happened in the 1900s, but that I had never heard of before, but was very interesting, and he took time to explain how this could happen with the dissolving of gases in water. So I think it was very, very interesting and well done. It's a little under 200 pages, I think. It's like right around, so 200... It's 201 pages, so it's very short, but it covers quite a bit, and it was very, very well done. I really enjoyed it. I would give it a 4-star. It was enjoyable. The loud car passing behind me. And yeah, I have to highly recommend. I think the cover is very well done. It's just overall a well done book, and I enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who is interested in learning a little bit more about the natural world. If you have anything else to recommend that's similar to this, I would love to hear it. Or if you've read this book and have any thoughts on it, I'd love to hear it as well. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching.